I first met Eugene England in 1997. Yes. No, I'm fine. Thank you, though. He had just taken a position as a writer-in-residence at Utah Valley State College, and he was in the initial stages of planning what is now the Mormon Studies program. By some stroke of luck, I got hired as his administrative assistant, and I became deeply involved in his work. I got to sit in on both private and public scholarly symposia with some of the most interesting people in Mormon studies, such as the late Dean May, Armand Moss, Carol Cornwall Madsen, Jan Ships, and Terrell Givens. As you might imagine, this was a pretty formative time for me, not least because for the first time in my life, I heard Mormonism discussed with discipline, intelligence, and spirit. I realized only later, though, how unique my time with Gene was. Few undergraduates are privileged to take part in gatherings where religious and scholarly discourse is carried on with such skill and wisdom. I attribute the unique spirit of these meetings to Gene's commitment to Joseph Smith's concept of proving contraries. Now, when one proves contraries, Gene argued, you're not doing so to identify which one is right and which one is wrong, but to experience the tension between them. It is in the experience of dwelling in this tension that makes you wiser. So later during graduate school, I became fascinated with the structure of stories because I discovered that the great characters of fiction are those who are stretched between two competing values. Think of Asher Lev, stretched between his devotion to his religion and his passion for art. Or think of The Merchant of Venice, where justice and mercy vie for the souls of Shylock and Portia. I also learned that the great stories of the world have second acts. Now, this might seem like a silly thing to say, but so many stories set up a problem, which is the job of the first act, and then resolve it, which is the job of the third act, with little to no struggle in between. Now, I'm here to tell you that it's the struggle that makes a story great, because that's the time when the opposing forces are at their most powerful. It's when they wreak their full havoc on the character. Rest assured that any character that makes it through the second act without a scar is cheating. I began to see that Gene was right. Those who dwell in the tension, those who are willing to go through their second act, gain much. Those who jump out too early lose much. Perhaps this is the wisdom behind the adage, endure to the end. So, no spiritual journey is a primrose path. It's a steep and thorny way to heaven, as Hamlet put it. The people you find at Sunstone are not the ones who have jumped. They are the ones who are still trying to navigate their vessels between the rocky shores of Charybdis and the teeth of Scylla. They are the ones who have been brave enough to plunge into their second act. But getting through the second act is not the end. As Elie Wiesel said just a few months ago, I believe that what we receive, we must share. When I endure an experience, and you have to remember who's writing this, the experience cannot stay with me alone. It must be opened. It must become an offering. It must be deepened and given and shared. The act of composing your story is a heroic journey in itself. It's essential that the writer undergo the journey, playwright David Mamet says. That's why writing never gets any easier. Thus, I believe in Sunstone, because Sunstone is the place where we wrestle, and the place where we share the stories of our struggle. Perhaps we're a small band of bards. Perhaps our struggles and our stories will go for the most part unnoticed. But we will continue, because as the novelist E.M. Forrester wrote, one can, at all events, show one's own little light here, one's own poor little trembling flame, with the knowledge that it is not the only light that is shining in the darkness, and not the only one which the darkness does not comprehend. Thank you.